An accidental touch turned into something more. Her whisper haunted him forever. First contact, the shuttle docked with a soft pneumatic hiss, and Dr. Elias Reyes exhaled slowly, watching Nexus Station's massive docking bay doors seal behind him. After 18 months of applications, security clearances, and hypersleep, he had finally arrived at humanity's most advanced xenobiological research facility. Dr. Reyes, a crisp voice called as he stepped onto the deck. "Welcome to Nexus Station. I'm Director Kwan." The station director, a stern woman with close-cropped silver hair, offered a firm handshake. "You're the first xenobiologist we've received in nearly a year. The Lumorians specifically requested your expertise." Elias adjusted the strap of his bag nervously. "I've studied their bioluminescent communication patterns for years, but I never expected to work with them directly. Well, they're expecting you in Lab 7 tomorrow at 0800. Get settled. Review protocols, especially the non-contact guidelines. The Lumorians consider physical touch extremely intimate, sacred, even." As Director Kwan guided him through the curved corridors, Elias glimpsed the planet Lemuria through a viewport, a swirling azure sphere veined with glowing purple patterns that pulsed like heartbeats. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Kwan remarked. "The Lumorians evolved in symbiosis with those bioluminescent networks. They communicate through emotion frequencies we can barely detect, though we've made progress with translator implants." After orientation and a fitful sleep adjusting to station time, Elias entered Lab 7 the following morning. The laboratory was bathed in soft blue light. With specialized equipment he'd only seen in research, papers, Dr. Reyes. A melodic voice drew his attention to the far side of the lab. She stood beside a holographic display, tall and graceful with skin the color of twilight amethyst. Two delicate ridges framed her face from temples to jawline, and when she moved, faint patterns of light rippled beneath her skin. "I am Nayara Voss, senior biological researcher." Her translator rendered her words perfectly, though he noticed a slight delay between her lips moving and the sound reaching him. "It's an honor," Elias said, careful not to extend his hand. "Your paper on bioluminescent neural pathways revolutionized my understanding of nonverbal communication." The faintest smile touched Nyara's lips as light patterns quickened beneath her skin. "And your work on cross-species empathic resonance is why I requested you specifically." Her eyes, deep violet with flecks of luminescent blue, studied him intently. For weeks, they worked seamlessly together, analyzing cellular samples from various species. Elias found himself mesmerized by Nyara's methodical precision and the way light danced across her skin when she was excited by a discovery. The incident happened during their third week. They were calibrating a new neural frequency scanner, both reaching for the calibration dial simultaneously. Their fingertips brushed for less than a second. The lab seemed to freeze. A jolt like static electricity shot up Elias's arm, followed by a wave of sensation, not pain, but something almost like consciousness. Foreign emotions cascaded through him: surprise, curiosity, fear, and something deeper he couldn't name. Nyara jerked back, her entire body illuminating with brilliant pulses of light. She gasped, uttering words his translator couldn't process. The lights dimmed as she regained composure, but her eyes remained wide, fixed on him. She whispered. "That shouldn't have happened." "I'm sorry," Elias stammered. "It was an accident." "No, you don't understand," Nyara's voice trembled. "I felt you inside my mind. That's impossible between our species." Before he could respond, she hurried from the lab, leaving Elias staring at his fingertips, still tingling with the ghost of her touch and the haunting sensation of having briefly existed in two bodies at once. That night, he dreamed of purple light and a whispered phrase he couldn't understand, but somehow recognized deep in his soul. Resonance. For 3 days following the incident, Nyara didn't appear in the laboratory. Elias tried to focus on his work, but his mind kept returning to that brief touch, the electric current that had passed between them, the flash of consciousness not his own, and the dreams wouldn't stop. Each night, fragments of Nyara's whispered words echoed through his sleep, accompanied by swirling patterns of purple light that matched the bioluminescence beneath her skin. "Dr. Reyes, you look terrible," Director Kwan remarked when she found him staring blankly at a tissue sample. "Is everything all right?" "Fine," he lied. still adjusting to station time. When Niara finally returned, she maintained a careful distance, speaking only when necessary about their research. Yet Elias caught her watching him when she thought he wasn't looking, her luminescent patterns pulsing rapidly beneath her skin. "We should discuss what happened," he said finally, after everyone else had left the lab. "There's nothing to discuss." Niara's voice was flat, but the lights beneath her skin betrayed her agitation. "I'm having dreams, Niara, I hear your voice. I feel," he hesitated, "emotions that aren't mine." She froze, her eyes widening. "What do I say in these dreams?" "I don't know. I can't translate it. But it feels important, like it's calling to me." Niara's luminescence dimmed as she sank into a chair. "This shouldn't be possible. The neural pathways of our species aren't compatible for resonance bonding." "Resonance bonding? It's," she hesitated, "sacred among my people. A joining of consciousness that occurs only between life partners. Through skin contact, our neural luminescent network can synchronize with another's, but only between Lumorians." "Yet it happened with us," Elias said quietly. A tremor passed through her luminescent patterns. A partial resonance, perhaps, an echo, but even that should be impossible. That evening, Elias received an encrypted message on his terminal. "Observatory Deck C midnight." He found Niara waiting in the darkened observatory, Lumoria filling the massive viewport with its swirling azure and purple glow. Her skin seemed to pulse in synchrony with the planet's bioluminescent veins. "What I'm about to tell you violates several protocols," she said without preamble. "But you deserve to understand," she explained how Lumorian consciousness existed partially within their physical bodies and partially within what they called the resonance field, a network of energy that connected all life on their world. "Our touch created a link between your consciousness and the resonance field," she said. "Something about your neural structure is uniquely receptive. This has happened only once before in our recorded history, 3 centuries ago, with catastrophic results." "What happened?" Elias asked. "The Lumorian was exiled. The human was—" She looked away, changed. "The connection deepened until they couldn't function separately. Is that happening to us?" "I don't know," she whispered. "But I feel you, Elias, your emotions, echoes of your thoughts. It frightens me." Without thinking, he moved closer. "It doesn't frighten me." "It should." Her luminescence brightened. "My people would consider me contaminated." "And your people?" "They would see you as compromised, a security risk. Then we keep it between us," he said. "We figure this out together." Something shifted in Niara's expression. Slowly, deliberately, she extended her hand, stopping inches from his. "What am I feeling right now?" she asked softly. Elias closed his eyes. Though they weren't touching, he sensed it. A gentle current of emotion, curiosity, fear, and beneath it all, a pull like gravity. "Attraction," he whispered, opening his eyes to find her closer than before. "Yes," she breathed, her luminescence pulsing in quick, bright patterns. Their fingertips met, and this time the sensation was less shocking. A warm current passing between them, carrying fragments of thought and feeling. Her consciousness brushed against his like ocean waves meeting a shore. When they finally separated, Niara's eyes shimmered with inner light. "The words in your dream," she said quietly. "I believe they were Tashara Novalis. It means resonance of souls." Later that night, as diplomatic tensions flared between the human delegation and Lumorian representatives over resource sharing, Elias and Niara stood at opposite sides of the conference room, pretending to be strangers while their newfound connection hummed between them like a taut string, vibrating with possibilities neither dared to name. Forbidden knowledge. The station's archives were technically open to all researchers, but the section on Lumorian cultural practices required special clearance. Elias obtained it through a carefully worded request about comparative xenobiological communication systems. What he found confirmed his suspicions. The resonance he shared with Niara wasn't just unusual, it was forbidden. Historical records described how the Lumorian Council had explicitly banned cross-species resonance after the incident centuries ago, declaring it a corruption of the sacred frequency. Meanwhile, relations between humans and Lumorians deteriorated, resource negotiations stalled, and rumors spread through the station of Lumorian withdrawing from the alliance entirely. They're concerned about cultural contamination, Director Kwan informed the research team. All personal interactions with Lumorian personnel are suspended until further notice. Yet Elias and Nyara found ways to meet, brief moments in service corridors, encrypted messages, and once daringly in a maintenance shaft overlooking the station's central atrium. My supervisor is watching me, Nyara confessed during one such meeting. She senses something different in my resonance patterns. Can they detect our connection? Not specifically, but they know something has changed. Her luminescence dimmed with anxiety. Elias, there's something else you should know. In the historical case, the human began developing luminescent patterns beneath their skin after 6 months of connection. Elias stared at her. You mean I don't know. But the physical changes were only the beginning. Their minds became too intertwined to function independently. That night, Elias studied his skin in the mirror, imagining patterns of light moving beneath the surface. The prospect should have terrified him, yet he felt only fascination and longing for a deeper connection with Nyara. Their opportunity came unexpectedly when the station suffered a catastrophic power failure. Emergency systems engaged, but the specialized atmospheric controls in the Lumorian section malfunctioned. Elias found Nyara in the affected laboratory, struggling to breathe in the rapidly thinning air calibrated for human respiration. He helped her to an emergency supply closet, sealed the door, and activated the backup environmental system. In the small space, illuminated only by the emergency lights and Nyara's bioluminescence, they waited for systems to stabilize. Her breathing gradually eased as the atmosphere adjusted to Lumorian parameters. Thank you, she whispered, her luminescence pulsing with gratitude. I felt your distress, Elias admitted. Across the station, I knew exactly where to find you. Their eyes met in the dim light. Slowly, deliberately, Nyara reached for his hand. This time when they touched, the connection flooded between them without resistance, a symphony of thought and emotion weaving them together. Elias saw fragments of Nyara's childhood on Lumoria, felt her wonder at the stars, experienced her first disappointment, her greatest triumph, and she witnessed his memories too. His parents' divorce, his fascination with alien biology, his loneliness despite professional success. When their fingers finally separated, something had changed. The resonance remained, humming between them like a gentle current even without physical contact. Teshara Novalis, Nyara whispered, her voice filled with wonder. The bond is deepening. Is that dangerous? Elias asked. Yes, she said simply, but also beautiful. Her luminescent patterns shifted into complex swirls that somehow expressed what words couldn't. As station systems came back online and emergency teams cleared sections for return, they knew their time alone was ending. Before leaving the closet, Nyara placed her palm against Elias's chest. My people have a saying, she said softly. The resonance never lies. What exists between us is real, Elias, however impossible. Their lips met for the first time, a kiss that sent cascades of light rippling across Nyara's skin and left Elias feeling as though he'd touched the surface of a star. When they separated, the ghost of her luminescence seemed to linger in his vision. As they returned to their respective sections, maintaining the pretense of professional distance, neither noticed the faint, almost imperceptible glow that had begun to form beneath the skin of Elias's wrist, the first visible sign of a transformation that would soon make their secret impossible to hide. Kumais. Twilight decision, you're certain about this? Dr. Miranda Chen asked, examining the faint phosphorescent patterns beneath the skin of Elias's forearm. It started 2 weeks ago, Elias confirmed, watching the subtle bluish-purple glow pulse with his heartbeat. And it's spreading. Miranda shook her head in disbelief. If I hadn't seen it myself, she lowered her voice. This goes beyond any documented case of xenobiological adaptation. Your cellular structure is incorporating elements of Lumorian bioluminescence. Can you help me hide it? For now, yes. This specialized derma patch will mask the glow. She applied a thin, skin-colored film to his arm. But Elias, this is progressing rapidly. Soon it could appear on visible areas, your face, your neck. He nodded grimly. I need time to figure this out. What you need, Miranda said carefully, is to consider breaking the connection before it becomes irreversible. But Elias knew it was already too late. The resonance with Nyara had become as essential as breathing. Even now, across the station, he could sense her consciousness, a warm presence at the edge of his awareness. That evening, a station-wide announcement changed everything. Attention all personnel. Due to escalating diplomatic concerns, the Lumorian delegation will be departing Nexus Station in 72 hours. All joint research projects are suspended indefinitely. Panic surged through Elias, his own and Niara's, their emotions tangling through their bond. He rushed to their meeting place in the rarely used observation bubble on the station's outer hull. She was already waiting, her luminescence fluctuating with distress. "They're recalling all Lumorians," she said without preamble. "Our council believes human contact is destabilizing our society." "Because of us?" Elias asked, horrified. "No, this is larger than us, but—" She hesitated. "My supervisor has noticed changes in my resonance patterns. If I return to Lumoria, they'll examine me thoroughly. They'll discover our bond. What happens then?" Niara's luminescence dimmed to a faint glow. "Exile at minimum. Possibly worse. Forcible severing of the resonance, which could damage us both permanently." Elias showed her his arm, removing the derma patch to reveal the growing patterns beneath his skin. "It's happening to me too." Her eyes widened as she traced the luminescent patterns with her fingertip. "Just like the historical case. Soon you'll begin to perceive the resonance field directly. I already do sometimes, in dreams." They stood in silence, the enormity of their situation settling between them. Through the viewport, Lumoria shimmered like a jewel, beautiful and suddenly threatening. "Come with me," Elias said suddenly. "Request asylum on Earth, and never return home." Niara's voice broke. "Never connect with the planetary resonance again. Or I go with you. Face your council together. They would never accept you." She touched his face gently, but there might be another way. Niara explained that during her research, she had discovered records of a Lumorian elder who lived far from the main settlements, one who had studied the ancient resonance traditions before they were codified into modern practices. "Elder Valkyr might know how to stabilize our connection without it consuming us," she said. "But reaching her would mean traveling to the restricted southern continent of Lumoria. We would need to leave the station secretly, evade detection." "You're talking about desertion," Elias said. "Abandoning everything." "Yes," Niara admitted, "for a chance that might not exist." That night, lying in his quarters, Elias felt the resonance between them strengthen despite the distance. Through their connection, he experienced Niara's conflict, her duty to her people warring with what had grown between them, and something else, a memory not his own, of a childhood ritual on Lumoria, standing beneath twin moons while elders spoke ancient words of connection to the planet's living heart. The next morning, Director Kwan summoned him to her office. "Dr. Reyes," she said gravely, "our sensors detected unusual bioluminescent activity in your quarters last night. Activity consistent with Lumorian physiology." Elias maintained his composure despite his racing heart. "I've been running tissue samples." "Don't," Kwan cut him off. "There are rumors among the Lumorian delegation about resonance bonding with a human. They're conducting internal investigations." She leaned forward. "If you've developed an inappropriate relationship with Niara Voss, it's not inappropriate," Elias said firmly. "It's unprecedented." Kwan's expression softened slightly. "Whatever it is, it's dangerous politically and possibly physically. The Lumorians are leaving tomorrow. Make your peace with that reality." But after leaving Kwan's office, Elias received an encrypted message from an unexpected source. Dr. Valrin, a senior Lumorian scientist he'd barely interacted with. The message contained only coordinates for a maintenance bay and a time, 300 hours. When Elias arrived, he found both Dr. Valrin and Niara waiting beside a small research shuttle. "Dr. Valrin knows," Niara explained. "He's been monitoring my resonance patterns." The older Lumorian nodded solemnly. "What has happened between you should be impossible, yet it exists. This represents a potential bridge between our species that transcends politics." "You're helping us?" Elias asked incredulously. "I'm giving you a chance to find answers," Valrin replied. "This shuttle has been programmed to evade standard detection. It will take you to Elder Valkyr's territory on the southern continent." As they prepared to board, Niara turned to Elias one last time. "This is your final chance to turn back. Your career, your connection to your own people." In answer, Elias took her hand, their resonance flaring brightly between them. The luminescent patterns on his arm glowed in harmony with hers, no longer alien but a physical manifestation of what they'd become together. Some discoveries are worth any price, he said simply, as the shuttle detached from Nexus Station and slipped silently toward the glowing surface of Lemuria. Elias watched the only home he'd known for months recede into the distance. Fear and uncertainty clouded his thoughts, but through their resonance, Niara's presence steadied him. Two hearts beating in synchrony, facing an unknown future together. New frequencies. The southern continent of Lemuria was nothing like the manicured diplomatic zones humans had previously been permitted to visit. Here the bioluminescent networks grew wild and untamed, pulsing with complex patterns that made the night as bright as twilight. Their shuttle touched down in a small clearing, surrounded by towering crystalline formations that amplified the natural resonance of the planet. Niara stepped out first, her skin immediately brightening in response to her homeworld's energy field. The planetary resonance is stronger here, she explained as Elias joined her. Elder Valkyr lives in harmony with the raw frequencies. They followed a pathway marked by stones that glowed with their footsteps, leading deep into a crystalline forest where light danced between translucent trunks like living currents. After an hour's journey, they came upon a dwelling that seemed to grow organically from the surrounding crystals. Elder Valkyr emerged before they could announce themselves, tall even by Lemurian standards, with skin that shimmered with complex patterns unlike any Elias had seen. Her eyes, when they fell upon him, widened with recognition. "So," she said in a voice that seemed to resonate with the very air, "it has happened again." Inside her dwelling, as they shared their story, the elder listened without interruption, occasionally closing her eyes as if sensing the resonance between them directly. "The council would have you believe this connection is an aberration," she finally said. "But they've forgotten our oldest histories. Before we became a spacefaring people, before we codified our traditions into rigid laws, we understood that the resonance field connects all conscious life, not just Lemurians." She approached Elias, studying the luminescent patterns now covering much of his arms and chest. "Your transformation is accelerating faster than the historical case. The resonance seeks equilibrium between you. Can it be stopped?" he asked. "Is that what you want?" the elder countered. Elias glanced at Niara. "I want us both to survive this, to be able to function independently if necessary, but not to lose what we've found." The elder nodded thoughtfully. "Then you must complete the Tashara Nivalis, the full resonance bonding. Only by embracing the connection fully can you gain control over it." "But the historical records," Niara objected. The human and Lemurian became unable to separate, lost in each other's consciousness. "Because they fought the natural progression," Elder Valkyr explained. "The resonance deepened despite their resistance, creating disharmony." She turned to face them both. "What exists between you is not a contamination but a bridge, proof that our species are more compatible than anyone believed." For 3 days, under the elder's guidance, they underwent preparations, meditations within crystalline chambers that amplified the resonance, rituals that helped Elias understand the Lemurian connection to their planet's energy field. His bioluminescent patterns grew more pronounced, now covering most of his body, but rather than feeling alien, they became an expression of his evolving consciousness. On the 4th night, beneath Lemuria's twin moons, Elder Valkyr led them to an ancient resonance amplifier, a natural formation of crystals arranged in a perfect spiral. "Here," she said, "the boundaries between separate consciousness become permeable. Here you will complete what began with an accidental touch." As they stepped into the center of the spiral, the crystals began to glow, responding to their combined resonance. Niara took both of Elias's hands in hers, their luminescent patterns synchronizing immediately. "Are you certain?" she whispered, her eyes searching his. "More certain than I've ever been about anything," he replied. Their foreheads touched, and the resonance between them exploded into something vast and beautiful. A complete merging of consciousness where every memory, every emotion, every fragment of identity was shared and understood. Elias experienced Niara's lifetime of connection to the resonance field, while she witnessed the rich tapestry of human relationships and individual identity that formed his perspective. For an eternal moment they existed as one being with two bodies, united in perfect understanding. When awareness of separate physical forms gradually returned, something fundamental had changed. The resonance remained, but now it felt controlled, a bridge they could cross at will rather than a current sweeping them away. Elder Valkyr smiled at what she saw. The balance has been achieved. Now you must share this discovery with both our peoples. 2 weeks later, they stood before the hastily reconvened Lumorian Council in the capital city, their arrival having caused diplomatic shockwaves that reached back to Earth itself. Director Quan had joined the human delegation, her initial anger at their desertion now tempered with scientific curiosity. What we represent isn't a violation of Lumorian tradition, Niara addressed the council, her voice steady despite their disapproving stares. It's the fulfillment of its oldest promise that consciousness can transcend physical boundaries. Elias stepped forward, his luminescent patterns visible to all. I've experienced your world's resonance field directly. I understand now what has always been missing from our diplomatic efforts, true comprehension of how differently our species perceive reality. Elder Valkyr, who had accompanied them as witness, added her respected voice. The resonance bond they share could be the template for a new form of communication between our peoples, one that goes beyond words to direct understanding. The debate raged for days. Some council members demanded Nyara's exile and Elias's removal for violating sacred traditions. Others saw the strategic advantage in a human who could directly perceive the resonance field. In the end, pragmatism prevailed. Under strict oversight, Elias and Nyara were permitted to establish a new research initiative dedicated to exploring the potential of cross-species resonance. You realize you can never fully return to your former life, Director Quan told Elias privately after the decision. The changes to your physiology, your consciousness, and I know, he said, watching the luminescent patterns move beneath his skin. No longer alien, but simply part of who he had become. But I haven't lost my humanity. I've expanded it. 6 months later, on a new research station orbiting Lumoria, a small team of carefully selected humans and Lumorians began voluntary resonance experiments under Elias and Nyara's guidance. The results were promising. Limited connections that allowed direct emotional understanding without complete transformation. Each night, Elias and Nyara would stand at the viewport overlooking Lumoria, their luminescence pulsing in perfect synchrony as they shared consciousness through the bond they had forged. Through their joint perception, they experienced the planet's beauty with both human wonder and Lumorian connection, neither perspective diminished by the other. Tashara Novalis, Nyara would whisper, the phrase that had once haunted Elias's dreams now a comfortable reality between them. The resonance of souls, Elias would reply, understanding at last the true meaning of her whispered words from that first accidental touch. Not a warning or a revelation, but a recognition of possibility that would forever change two species' understanding of connection.